Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so it's 4:45 and I'd just like to open the meeting. And I'd like to thank the committee members for coming and for the other elected members for coming along as well. I've had an apology from Councillor Dutta, so if it's okay, Lord Mayor, we'll just co-opt you.
I'll move that.
So moving on to the agenda, we'll number
You
one.
need to put that. You need to put that, Chair.
Can we put that to, if that's okay, please? Can we put that motion to co-opt the Lord Mayor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Alderman Sexton. Moving on to to agenda item number 2, indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest. Are there any? If there are none, I'll move on to item number 3, which is a transfer of agenda items, and we of course only have one. So move on to item number 4, which is the report, the 4.1 policy review grants program. And before I do ask for the motion to be put, I'll just ask the director if he can give us an overview, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I start by saying ordinarily this policy would come as part of the annual suite policy review items that come to the Finance and Governance Committee meeting. However, this one has become time sensitive, which is why we are coming to a special Community Culture and Events Committee tonight. And the reason it's time sensitive is merely from an administrative point of view, we need to get on with the grants program. And with Council resolving earlier this year to incorporate a formal business grants stream, that has involved the necessity for us to review all the timeframes of the grants for the 12 months because it's an increased workload for us to administer, which in itself is okay. There's no specific issue with that other than timing. So what we have essentially done with the grant is to remove a number of items from the policy because when we looked at the policy in full, it was beginning to read more like a procedure than a council policy and had a lot of detail in it. I'm sorry, Chair, obviously the track changes version that you have received of the policy does look quite clumsy, and that's simply because we've moved things around. The critical changes we have made, though, for the information of elected members is that we have removed the reference to the dates of the various grant categories. And again, as I said, that really is from an administrative point of view. That is something that the administration is seeking to take forward because in terms of the timing of the various categories, we just need a little bit of flexibility about how and when we do that. And the way that the policy was structured, it was too prescriptive. And with the introduction of the business grants, we were not going to be able to meet the time frames as are actually listed in the policy at the moment. So we thought on reflection, it made sense to take reference to the dates out altogether and make that an administrative process rather than part of the policy. I think it's important for elected members to know that in revising the policy, we've not changed any of the delegations. So the delegations that sat with the General Manager, which is for grants up to $20,000, still sits with the General Manager, and for grants that are over $20,000, the decision there still sits with the Council. So we have not changed any of the delegations in terms of the policy. The administrative content that was in the document, we have removed that and we will seek to put that into a companion document, an administrative document, which is the City of Hobart Grants Program Administration document. So for people that want to know the how, that's where the how will be contained. So we really have tried to get the policy back to what it should be, Chair, which is a high-level statement of Council's intent around the grants program. without getting into too much detail, which we think respectfully was beginning to become confusing. But I'm very happy to take questions, Chair, if there are any.
Thank you very much, Director. I'd now call for the item to be moved and open it up for discussion.
Happy to move it, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair, can you just confirm you're going to use the hands, or do we just unmute? Anyway, there's only one item, so I guess it doesn't matter. Just probably should tell us the system
now.
up.
Councillor Harvey, yes.
Yep.
And
Well, anyway, while I've got the floor, happy to support. I think it's a lot less cluttered than the previous policy, so I was quite pleased to see a lot of lines through things that probably didn't need to be there. So happy to support the motion as described by the officer there, by the director, sorry. So thank you.
thank you very much. And next hand up is Councillor Ewan.
Hi, yeah, thanks. And I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation. Just wonder if you could give me a little bit of background, being reasonably new, like how did the policy end up being so clunky? Was it just sort of review after review and then little bits getting added in for like pet projects or something?
Through you, Chair. Yes, is the short answer to that. I think that it has been through the process of annual changes. It's just got to a point where in taking a step back and looking at it, we've gone, oh gosh, it really has become quite long and complicated.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry. I think I'm having a few issues with my internet, so I apologise if I sound a little bit unstable at times. I mean, my voice. So I think the next hand up is the Lord Mayor's.
Thank you. It all looks pretty good. I just wanted to ask a question about the major partnerships and whether there needs to be any more detail just for a sort of transparency or public understanding reason as to how you get on the list, how you become a major partner, you know, what happens if you don't feel that you've been, you know, how can you sort of express an interest to be a major partner, or what happens if you feel that you've been unfairly left off the list, or yeah, just any, or is there any rights of appeal, or is it just a sort of, you know, it just says it's a council decision, but is it based on, I quite liked the list of things that were there about, you know, there was some criteria there, but whereas now it's just a council decision. What was your thinking there? And yeah, how do you feel whether, you know, whether there should be some more information for people?
Through you, Chair, can I just clarify, Lord Mayor, are you talking about the major cultural grants or the city partnerships program?
I think the one that basically said, I don't have it in front of me now, I did read it earlier, it did say something around it'll be a council decision. It was fairly simple. It might have been this.
Through you, Chair, that sits actually, so both the city partnerships and the major cultural organisations are council decisions. Look, I have with me in the room Mr. Mark Joseph, who might be able to give us some more detail around the process in terms of both the recipients in both those categories. So Mark, if you could just come round and perhaps join in on the screen, and we'll just endeavour to give you a bit more detail there.
So through you, Chair, if I may, so the city partnerships, which is the subject of a report that's being developed at the moment, actually, we're reviewing the framework determining the city partnerships, and that will be going up to council soon.
Okay.
And that's been previously based on the longevity of the events, the importance to them culturally to the community. That includes Anzac Day, the two regattas, the Italian and the Greek Festival, and the Theatre Council Awards. They're the current city partnerships. The event, the major cultural orgs are determined by their annual income, their profession, the level of professionalism. They have to be based in Hobart. So there are 4 major cultural orgs. So that's the Theatre Royal, Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra, TMAG and the Salamanca Arts Centre. So there's only 4 major cultural orgs that are actually eligible to receive that funding.
Okay. So I think I noticed that you'd remove some of the categories in the major cultural organisations out of the policy. Is it proposed that you would put that into a different document?
So that's in the administrative document that the director referred to before. Again, we felt it was administrative rather than policy.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been set by council, and we wouldn't change that unless there was a council directive to change that. If another organisation based itself in Hobart and we felt that it was eligible, we'd put that up to council for decision whether they should be included in that major cultural orgs funding.
Okay. But that'll be transparent. So if there was said organisation came into Hobart, they can say, oh, I tick all those boxes, I might apply for that status. Okay.
Yeah, we review their eligibility, we put that to council, and then again, it would be a council decision. Having said that, at the moment there's $100,000 distributed by application to those 4 organisations. So then there would be the question, do you have 5 or 6 organisations applying for the same funds, or do you increase the funds accordingly? But again, that would be a council decision.
Okay. And then once we've looked at the city partnerships, that will also go into the administrative document.
Yeah, so yeah, and as it is, it's a step, as we do at the moment, it's a grant, it has eligibility criteria, but then, yeah, if once that report goes to council, once the review's finished, then it would be a decision for council about which organisations or which events would be included in that city partnership funding.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much. Is there any more discussion? Would anybody else like to talk? I don't see any hands up. So I suppose I'll ask, we'll now put the motion and get a vote on it. So I'd like to ask, does anyone vote against the motion? No? Okay, so that is carried. And so now I'd just like to let everybody know, just remind you that we have the next council, the council meeting at 5 o'clock, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming along. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.